Hey class, welcome to week 5 of COMM 313 for the spring 2019 semester. During this week, we're going to take a look at a couple different chapters. We're going to look into chapter 4, which is stakeholder management and communication, and chapter 5, which is corporate identity, branding, and corporate reputation. Please keep in mind, I would like you guys to read the chapters before you actually watch this video of me lecturing on the PowerPoints. Just because there might be a couple slides that I might skip or go through a little quickly, just because of the assumption that you have read the chapters and you should know what it is. So please read the chapters before you actually watch the video lecture in order to have a good understanding of what's being discussed. This way you don't fall behind or have any confusion with what it is that I'm discussing in our lecture. In addition, for this week, we're going to take a look at our group projects that have been selected, and you're going to be introduced to Zoom, which is a tool you can use to record your group project. Keep in mind, we are going to review our group project for the term next week. I know our syllabus, let's go ahead and look at our syllabus real quick. Our syllabus up here says that we are going to be reviewing the group project this week, but I'm going to push it back 1 week because I want you to do some work this week with your group project, with introducing yourself to one another. Also, you have a couple PowerPoints, chapters to read, along with a quiz as well, which you can see it's down here listed at item number 6. Your quiz is going to be 10 questions worth 2.5 points each. It's 5 true, false, 5 multiple choice. So you're going to have 10 minutes to complete it, and it's due by Tuesday, February 19th. So please make sure to complete it. And then we're going to come back to these Zoom bullet points, just to kind of give you an idea of how to use the software, how you can benefit from it, from actually recording your group project, which we will be discussing next week. So before we go into our lectures and lecturing, I want to show you here. Here is your group list. Please make sure that you have a good understanding of which group you are in. And what I would like you to do is I would actually like you to go to the discussion forums, which you can either click here, or what you can do is you could click on this link down here. So find your corresponding number, which group you're in. Go to click on group discussions, find your group number here. So if you were listed in group 5, click on group 5. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to start a new conversation, come up with a creative title, introduce yourself here, maybe share your contact information with your group, maybe a few personal things about you, maybe what your major is, something you might like to do, just to kind of give your group members an idea of who you are as a person and what you're doing. Also, let them know what your availability is each week, just so that way if you guys want to meet on campus, you can, if everybody is available at a certain time. So it's always good to let everybody know when you are available as well, just to kind of give an idea, so that way you guys can be all on the same page. And then in order to record your group project, you're going to have an oral presentation for your group project and a written part. But the oral presentation is going to be completed on Zoom. For those of you who are not familiar with Zoom, let's go ahead and go to zoom.us. It's very easy. All you're going to do is click on, oh, I'm actually logged in right now. So let me go ahead and log out. All you're going to do is click on sign up. It's free. Put your email in here, answer the questions, and then go from there. But let me go ahead and sign in. What's cool about Zoom is it's very user-friendly and it's very easy to use. So what you can do is you can actually host a meeting here with your group members. I'm going to go ahead and go video on. Just keep in mind my camera on my laptop is actually not working right now. I dropped my laptop the other day, and when I opened it and I tried using a conference webinar, it just was not working. And you could see here, that's my light in my background, and that's me waving my hand over my light, but you can't see me. But so here's what's cool about Zoom. I'm going to give you a quick crash course and then show you how to use the tutorials so you can really learn how to use it. When you get into your meeting and everybody from your group is in here, click the record button. And I'll show you why this is so important later. So while you guys are in here, you're going to see, you're going to have 4 participants in here, and each participant can share their screen when they're presenting, or you guys can all share one screen, and someone can control the PowerPoint here. So it's actually recording everything here. And here you would see me in this box, and then you would see all the other group members under here as well too. So it's almost as if you're having a webinar with everybody and you're presenting on your PowerPoint for your group oral presentation. So then what's cool, once you're done, you could click End Meeting, whoever the host is, End Meeting for all. And now what's going to happen is Zoom is going to compile your meeting into an MP4. It's converting it into an actual file right away because you hit that record button. That's why it's so important to make sure you hit that record button. So then what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and save it where you would like to save it. I'm going to go ahead and save it to the desktop here. Click Save. So once you guys complete your presentation, you're going to see here it's going to put it up here on a file on my desktop. I'm going to double click and you're going to see the MP4 here that I just recorded. And I'll show you why this is so important later. So you could see that it's pretty easy to use. And what you're going to do is you're going to actually upload this file and you're going to create it into a link, and then that's what you're going to turn in for your oral presentation. So pretty easy to use, pretty easy to understand. I want you guys to play around with it to get a good understanding of how to use it. I've also included here a Zoom video conferencing tutorial. Click on a link. Keep in mind the video isn't too. The video is not too. I guess you could say appealing. It's a little bit more monotone. It's a little bit more monotone, but it does give directions on how to create, your Zoom conference, how to record, create your profile. Keep in mind this was recorded a couple years ago, so there might be a few things outdated.
Then click on.
But you can see.
And off. The microphone is the computer.
It gives you some great tools and tips on how to use the tools. And then even better here at number 5, I have Zoom tutorials from their actual website, their support site. You have all these different tutorials on how to join a meeting, the meeting controls, scheduling a Zoom webinar, audio, video, and sharing, all of this information about recording here. So there's so much that you can do. So familiarize yourself with all of that. So that's what I would like you to do this week for your group. Go ahead and post in the group discussion forum. Watch the Zoom conferencing tutorial, familiarize yourself with the support tutorials as well on Zoom. This way you have a good understanding of how to use the actual software. And of course your quiz that you need to complete, I have a link here, or you could click on the quiz up here, whatever's easier for you. So let's go ahead and take a quick look at chapter 4. So chapter 4 talks about stakeholder management and communication. It's going to discuss the introduction to the concept of stakeholders and overview of models used by organizations for communicating and collaborating with stakeholders. But today we're going to look into this a little bit more into detail, the introduction to the concept of stakeholders. So stakeholder initiatives, this is the range of schemes and initiatives have developed at industry, national, and transnational level, such as UN Global Compact Initiative, Global Reporting Initiatives. You have all these different initiatives among stakeholders. Then you have your stakeholder management, and your book discusses 2 different types of theories, the neoclassical and the socioeconomic. The neoclassical is, purpose of an organization to make profits. The socioeconomic is, other groups besides shareholders count, and so on and so on. So here's your neoclassical model. You have your organization, and then you have your investors, employees, and suppliers all working for the organization. Goes into the customers. Here in your in the stakeholder model, so here you can see you have your government, your investor, your political groups. These are all considered stakeholders of the actual organization. So keep that in mind. You have so many different types of stakeholders. And the nature of stakes and stakeholders, pretty important for our class because we're going to be talking about stakeholders quite a bit. So make sure you have a good understanding of a stakeholder and what a stake is as well. And of course, you have different types of states, people who are in it for the equity, maybe economic or market shares, or even the influencer stakes. And you can see here you have your descriptions and example of what kind of stakeholder that this might be. So let's take a look at the types of stakeholders. You have a primary stakeholder and a secondary stakeholder. So a primary stakeholder is someone who, without their continued participation, the organization cannot survive, such as employees, suppliers, consumers. These are all people that make the organization go round. Then you have your secondary stakeholder. These can generally influence or affect or are influenced or affected by the organization, such as media or special interest groups. These are more of secondary stakeholders in an organization. And you have your contractual stakeholders and your community stakeholders as well, such as for customers, it's consumers, employees are regulators, distributors are government, and so on and so on. But the benefits of the stakeholder model is really to be a good citizen as an end in itself, have good employee morale, and of course, reputation of organization. Um, so your CSR initiatives, you have direct outcome of shift in models, includes a philanthropy, community involvement, ethical and environmental friendly business practices, and it recognizes business needs to deliver wider values beyond shareholder market value alone. So when you're looking at the basic stakeholder identification analysis, there are a few questions you can ask yourself. Who are the organization stakeholders? Then you're going to go a little deeper. What are their stakes? What opportunity and challenges do they have? Then what responsibilities? And then, of course, in what way can an organization best communicate? So here we can see our stakeholder salience model. We have power, legitimacy, and urgency. And when all three of these meet, you have your definitive stakeholder. This is the most important stakeholder here. If you have a stakeholder that has urgency and power, they're going to be a little bit more dangerous on this side. And then if you have one with power who is also legitimate, this is your dominant stakeholder, which is pretty much one of your most important ones. For stakeholder communication from awareness to commitment, it's good to have a good understanding of the tactics and the type of strategy, and then, of course, the understanding of it, the involvement, and, of course, the commitment. And organization stakeholders have a communication model. So this is informational strategy. It's a one-way symmetrical model. This is when an organization just communicates to a stakeholder. It's just providing information. Here we have a persuasive strategy. It's a two-way asymmetrical model. So the organization, communicates to the stakeholder, and then you're going to get feedback, which may come from this information here, all depending on what that information here is. Then you have your dialogue strategy. This is really just two-way symmetrical model of communication, where the organization and the stakeholder are communicating back and forth with one another. And so here you can see that you have the characteristics of the old and new approaches to organization, where you have it with your stakeholder management, stakeholder collaboration. This isn't something you really need to look into too deeply, but have a good understanding of it. And then, of course, with collaboration and engagement, you want to focus on changing the relationship between the organization and its stakeholders from management to collaboration and from exchange to long-term relationships. This really helps build the structure of the organization. And then collaboration implies a two-way symmetrical model of dialogue and consultation when you're dealing with stakeholders. And then chapter 5, we're going to look at the corporate identity, branding, and corporate reputation. So of course we're going to look at the corporate identity management, and then establishing, maintaining, and protecting corporate reputations with different stakeholder groups. So corporate identity, strategically projecting a particular positive image of the organization. Also to build, maintain, and protect strong reputations with stakeholders. Leads to stakeholders accepting and supporting an organization, and it gives organizations first choice status with investors, customers, employees, and other stakeholders. So your corporate identity is going to be dependent on what your organization actually does. So here we have our advantages of corporate image investing. So distinctiveness, stakeholders, they recognize an organization with impact that's being favored, and with stakeholders, you avoid conflicting images and messages. So your corporate identity. Originally, corporate identity focused on logos and visual design. Now it encompasses all forms of communication, not just outward embodiment of company, but also intrinsic characteristics, traits of company that provide specificity. So you want to keep that in mind when you're working with your corporate identity and understanding what it is. And here's a model from Burke and Stadler of corporate identity, which shows behavior, communication, and symbolism. And this is the corporate personality. So all three of these make up the corporate personality in its own. And your corporate image management adds an important symbolic dimension to corporate communication. So that's why it's important to make sure to have a good corporate image. So in this class, we're going to really look into how we communicate in a corporation and how we can create and keep that positive image. And here, this is your corporate identity in relation to corporate reputation. Your book talks a little bit about it more in detail, and I'd like you guys to have a good understanding of what this is, and the next slide as well for the corporate identity in relation to corporate reputation. Make sure to review this, have a good understanding of what it means, along with the monolithic, endorsed, and branded identities as well. Your book discusses all three of these in detail as well. So let's look at the types of identity structure. So here we can see the three different types of structure I just discussed. So you have monolithic. This is single, all-embracing identity, such as Sony, BMW, Virgin, and Philips. These are products that all carry the same corporate name. Then you have endorsed. Businesses and product brands are endorsed or badged with the parent company name. General Motors, they own Ford, but it's called GM. Kellogg, Nestle, Cadbury, and so on. And then branded individual businesses or product brands that each carry their own name, such as, Procter & Gamble here, Dove, and so on and so on. So aligning identity, image, and reputation, the importance of alignments between the organizational culture as experienced by employees. You want your employees to be comfortable working where they're at. You want to have a good culture in your organization because remember, employees are stakeholders, and stakeholders communicate with other people to discuss how the organization is being ran. So here's a toolkit to assess the alignment between vision, culture, and image. So you can see you have vision, image, and culture. So the employees make up the culture, the managers create the vision, and then of course the stakeholders are the image of the organization. And you can see as it turns here, you're going to have more of a gap moving forward. So you have your three toolkit elements. You have vision, culture, and image. So vision is senior management's aspirations for the organization. Culture is the organization's values is felt and shared by all employees of the organization. And image is the image or impression that outside stakeholders have of the organization. So going back here, you can see where these each fall into place. So the interface between vision and image. So when you're looking at the interface for vision and culture, you need to understand, does the organization practice the values it promotes? Does the organization's vision inspire all its subcultures? And are the organization's vision and culture sufficiently differentiated from those of its competitors? These are things that you need to keep in mind when you're looking at the vision and culture. And of course, who are the organization's stakeholders? It's always good to understand who the stakeholders are and what kind of role that they play in the organization, and what do they want from the organization as well, and is the organization effectively communicating its vision to its stakeholders. Okay, so that's it for this week, class. Again, please make sure to read chapters 4 and 5, have a good understanding in detail what the book discusses. We went over it briefly to give you an idea of what what it is, but make sure you read the chapters thoroughly and you have a good understanding of all the charts and whatnot. So if you guys have any questions, again, feel free to contact me. All my information, as a reminder, is in the syllabus, which I have up here. If you scroll to the top, you're going to have my cell phone number. I have received some text messages and calls from students in our class, so it's good to see that you guys are utilizing my cell phone to ask questions. If you have something that may not be as important, it could take a little longer, you can always send me an email as well. So I wish you guys all the best of luck this week. Take care, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Good luck, guys.